Hey, what's up, guys? It's Reed Young, aka Shuda, bringing you guys another cool shorthanded no limit hand that I found. This is a hand of my friend playing, and he's a pretty interesting poker personality. He plays hands pretty exploitively a lot of the time, but he is pretty much always right on with his reads, so it makes for a pretty powerful combination against guys who are also using an exploitive strategy or who try to out adjust him. They usually just end up giving him a lot of money. So let's start checking out the hand and we'll see what kind of spot we get into here. So we flat ace queen on the button against a hijack open who also happens to be under the gun. We're about 125 big blinds effective, so I think the play is pretty good there so far. You could 3-bet it. It just depends on the player. I think ace queen can get you into some rough spots, and with the small blind looking like a potential spot at the table, I don't mind trying to keep him in and re-raising a bit more of a polarized range as kind of a default. The flop, I think, kind of plays itself in most cases. We have a wheel draw, 2 overcards, and I think we're just going to have enough equity against his entire range about always to call here. I mean, even if he had a hand like kings, we're still going to have some implied odds, maybe not too much, but our the point is if he has like jacks or tens or nines, we're going to get 3 streets a lot of the time if a queen comes. So in addition to having equity against his entire range, there's a lot of good future outcomes for us. And the under the gun player could just give up. Say if the turn's like the 6 of hearts, maybe we could turn our hand into a bluff with check 2. There's a lot of cool things that could happen. So we call. The turn is the nuts, so offsuit queen. And we get bet into again. Now, pretty much any decent player who wants to balance their bluffing range on this turn is going to want to value bet thinly, right? So in order to kind of flip that notion on its head, we have a few options. I think calling is standard because it protects your range on a card that he's going to be barreling a lot. We don't necessarily want to fold out his bluffs. Then we also want some stronger hands, like I'm saying. So if we did have a hand like pocket eights here, we don't want to just telegraph the strength of our hand by raising here and let him off the hook easily. So if we're raising hands like this, then next time we call, he's going to think that our range is weaker, and it probably will be. So like my buddy often does here, he makes an exploitive play and raises. I don't think it's a bad one at all. I think we're ahead of his turn betting range because it should include a lot of worse hands than Queen X, so stuff like 9s through jacks, in addition to a lot of semi-bluffs that are now kind of put into a tough spot. So if he has like ace X of hearts, does he jam, or does he call and try to play the river well against us, which likely won't happen. Even a hand like Queen Jack or King Queen is going to have a tough time playing the river pretty well. Because what's going to happen is he flats, then he's either worried about, a 6, an ace, or heart on the river most of the time. Maybe even an 8 if we have hands like 6, 7 suited pre-flop that we could play this way. And in addition to that, he doesn't even know if he has the best hand. So kind of a tough spot, but at the same time, you don't want to be folding such a strong hand when you want to be bluffing this hand, or this turn card, rather, so often. So a pretty gross spot if you're sitting there with a queen or a similarly strength hand. The under the gun player goes all in, and I think it would just be horrible to raise this turn with the intention of folding because it does put him in such a tough spot with a lot of semi-bluffing type hands and a lot of weaker made hands, a lot of weaker queens. So part of the reason we're raising is to confuse him and represent semi-bluffs or hands maybe like pocket 3s that we're trying to turn into a bluff here, and part of the reason is to get value from worse queens. So we raise with the intention of calling it off, certainly. So we stick to the plan, we call it off, see the river jack, which is frightening as hell, but he had queen 10 instead of queen jack, so we win a nice $1,000 pot, which is good for us. So if you guys like these videos, please go ahead and share it with some buddies. The channel is growing, and thank you guys very much for showing them. But this has been Reed Young. Send me some hands. If you guys have any questions, post them in the comments. Later, guys.